Hi, I'm Bonnie Kempke. Welcome to my studio and welcome to Quilting on a Thread. Today I want to talk with you about maintaining the cleanliness, the integrity, if you will, of your Cutie frame. And this is going to be the same whether it's the Cutie frame, the Q-Zone frame, the Q-Zone Queen. Basically any frame that has tracks on it. We don't think about it often, but we're creating a lot of dust and lint in our studios when we're working. And a few weeks ago, I had 3 ladies over from Georgia here in my studio, and they brought their equipment. They wanted me to work them, help them work their way through some problems they were having on their Cutie frame. And one of the things that I went over with them was cleaning the frame. And so I thought I'd go ahead and make a video about cleaning the frame because it's really a simple thing to do, but it's a critical thing to do. And so one of the things that I have in my studio at all times is a maintenance kit. And my maintenance kit, I keep it in a box like this. This just happens to be an old cookie box from my goddaughter sent me this actually. It's a cookie box from some cookies she sent from Texas. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to adjust my camera down and we're going to go through everything that I have in this box and how I use it on cleaning my Cutie frame and cleaning my machine. So let me rearrange things here and I'll be right back with you. Bye-bye. Okay, so I'm back and I'm going to bring out my goodie box here and I'm just going to pull everything out of the box and talk with you about what's in this box. Let me make sure that we can see the box so you can see me as I pull things out of it. Let me readjust just a little bit. There. I want to make sure that you can really see what's going on. So in this box, I have everything that I'm ever going to need. So I have a lint-free cloth, and I throw this cloth out regularly and just get another piece of lint-free cloth. It doesn't matter what it is. And what this cloth is this is what I use to wipe down the frame pieces itself. It doesn't hurt at all to dust the frame. I also dust my table. I use the same cloth to dust my table. I have a level. And the cool thing about a level, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with the level, but they have that little green liquid filled thing. And see how that bubble is right in the middle? That's when things are level. I always go ahead and test my table and my frame for level when I don't have anything on it, just to make sure that everything is level. And I test in pretty much every place that I can think to set this. So having a level handy is always helpful. And this level is really cool. It has a magnet, so I can actually stick this magnet to my table, my Husky table. And I can stick that magnet to my Husky table and bring it up to the top of the wood and put it in place, and the level is right there. And I mean, the level bubble is right there in the center. And I do that on all ends of the frame and the reason of the table. And the reason why I do that is because when you've applied weight to a table, and I'm on a carpeted floor, you apply weight to the table, the different places where your table hits the carpet and presses into the carpet, it depresses the pad at a different intensity, if you will. And so you can literally be working for months on end with everything level, and then one day you come in and things aren't quite working right, and it's because the weight on your table has pressed into the carpet and the padding, and it's actually changed the level of your table now. So it's a good thing to test the level of the table, both underneath the surface and on top of the surface, just to make sure that everything stays level, because if it doesn't, you can adjust that. So that's in my goodie box. And of course, there's oil And I have this is I had some Dritz pins that were bought in this, and this is just a box that I open up, and whenever I'm going to put oil on a brush, I open up my machine oil. This happens to be Singer machine oil, but it doesn't matter what kind of machine oil it is, as long as it's machine oil without sediment and that hasn't been left open to become contaminated. So when you use your machine oil, always close the machine oil when you're done with it, because believe it or not, oxygenation can ruin your machine oil. So of course I've gotten that closed tight, and I don't have fingernails today. I clipped my nails. So I will put 1 drop of oil. That's all that I'm going to need for any cleaning of my machine. You can go ahead and put this cap on it because I can get to it when I need it later. Let me go ahead and close the oil. Here's my cloth. So let me go ahead, and I'm just going to dust everything. I dust everything on the machine. So I do it from the front, I do it from the front and back, I go to the sides, I dust everything that I can get to, just to make sure that there's no dust. Because you may not see that dust, but I guarantee you the wheels on your machine do see that dust, and they pick it up. So dust everything. And in fact, it doesn't hurt to dust your machine. Just dust, dust, dust. And after you've dusted your machine, go ahead and dust your table. I have lint on my table that I'm picking up right now. So I'll go ahead and I'll dust everything. I'm not cleaning for, I'm not eating off this table. I'm just dusting to get anything that my last project might have left on my table. And if you look at that, this was a brand new cloth, and you can see the dust is on that cloth. So there definitely was dust on my machine and on my table. So now this gets thrown aside. I'll get a new swatch. I have a Phillips screwdriver because most machines do not come with a Phillips screwdriver. They come with two or three flathead standard screwdrivers. So I always have a Phillips screwdriver in my box, and I have a variety of brushes. And I'm going to pull each one of these out and discuss them. So this is a Sable Brush, very, very soft bristles. This happens to be an oval mop brush. It's a paint brush. I use this brush to brush off all my tracking. So I move my machine out of the way and I brush off my tracking. That's getting any surface dirt. If I see something that looks like it's dirt or a scar on my tracking, I go ahead and work on that. Let me get the box out of the way so that I can move the frame. But I do go ahead and dust my tracks as thoroughly as possible. Now the reason why I dust the tracks after I've dusted the machine and table down is because that actually does stir up some dust. Dusting the machine, dusting the frame, dusting the table stirs up some dust, so it gets it on the surface of these tracks. So go ahead and dust those. So that's my first line of defense, is this oval mop 1-inch paintbrush. And like I said, it's sable hairs. They're very, very, and to clean this itself, all I need to do is play with the bristles to get any dust that's in that brush itself. Set that aside. That brush, I never put any oil on this brush. The next brush that I have is a 3/4 inch angular shader brush. Now, the reason why I have this brush is because that lets me get into the track crevices. And so I will go ahead and get into the track crevices of my machine frame. And I use that. It's very simple. Oh, love those elastics. I caught it here. Let me get that uncaptured. There we go. Get that out of the way. So I just run that angular brush along the tracks to pull out anything that might have gotten in between the rubber and the hard surface of the track. Because those things that get caught in there will get caught in your wheels. Now I know that sounds kind of, oh, give me a break, right? But in doing this, I often find little pieces of lint that I did not see before, and I'm sitting here brushing that, and those little pieces of lint are flying around. I know you can't see it, but I can see it. So I'll go ahead and get the rest of my tracking. I do not use any kind of chemical on my tracks, and the reason why I don't is because most chemicals have an adverse reaction on anything plastic or rubber. So since I don't want that adverse reaction, I don't use any kind of chemicals. All I'm trying to do is get any debris. And a lot of times, like I said, a lot of times you won't see it, but I guarantee you that there is debris and lint, especially in the tracks of your wheels. Of your frame. So this is the brush. This is a stiffer bristle brush. It's a stiff flat. This is the brush that I will use oil on when I'm oiling bits and parts of my machine. So I'm not going to clean my machine today. That lovely elastic again. I'm not going to be cleaning my machine today. That's a different video. But this is the brush that I would dip in the oil that I've put in here. I would dip it in here, and I would pick up lint out of the inside of my needle plate. Now, before I would use that brush, I would use this brush, which is, I'm trying to read it for you. It's a number 5. It's just a round brush. It's just a number 5 round brush. The reason why I like this brush is because it reaches into crevices really easily. And it's soft, so it's not going to damage anything. So that brush I love for reaching into mechanical parts just quietly. Now, you're gonna laugh. This is an eyeliner brush. The eyeliner brush is where I also use this to reach in, but I don't put any oil on this brush, but I'll use this to reach into things in my machine or in my tracking that I didn't feel like I got, because this thing will reach in to those grooves so much easier than anything else. And if I think there's a piece of thread in there, I can just take that brush, and it's stiff enough but soft enough that it'll reach in and get things. Now, this is a root touch-up brush by Nice and Easy. I literally bought some hair color just to get this brush. This brush is for my machines that have feed dogs. I use that to brush along the feed dogs. And the cool thing about it is the bend of this brush will let me reach up under those feed dogs, and I can get to the feed dogs in both directions. This is a cool brush to have. This is just an angled Singer cleaning brush. And this brush I also will use. You can see it's discolored. It's discolored because I do occasionally use this with my oil. And that's to get in and get pieces of lint that are down deep in the machine that I couldn't see. And this is another little brush that I've had forever. It's an angled brush. It's a lot like this brush, this angled 3 1/4 inch. It's just a smaller version, and I use this brush interchangeably. I use these two brushes interchangeably. So that's all the stuff that's in my little cleaning kit. So like I said, I'm in between projects, and this seemed like a good time. I always have this box here and ready, and I move it from machine to machine and from workspace to workspace to do all my cleaning. And a lot of times this box just sits underneath my Cutie frame on the center rail, and it's very, very handy to any machine I want. I can just reach over here and grab it. Like I said earlier, when I dusted the table, you can see that demarcation where this was folded in half and I was dusting, and that's the dust that I picked up off the table. That's from just working on one project. And that dust is going to work its way into the framing and the wheels. Now, one of the things that I hadn't talked about is now I'm going to fold this over because this is going to get thrown away and replaced. But I also will take this with a clean side and I will polish on these wheels. And the reason why I polish on these wheels, both the inside and the outside wheels, is because you will occasionally see little lines of gray on these wheels. And what that is that's dust that got picked up. And I do this on both the lower wheels and the upper wheels in between each project. And I do that because that's where the wheels pick up that dust, and that's where that dust gets wound up into, and see, that's from wheels. That's from the wheels. That dust will get into the track and it'll get in behind the wheels, and the only way to get it out is to take the wheels off the frame. So I'm going to go ahead and get all of my wheels now. And oh yeah, the last project that I worked on was apparently very linty because I'm picking up a lot of lint off these wheels. And after I get that lint off the wheels, I just pulled that off those two wheels over there. After I get that lint off those wheels, I go ahead and move the wheels around by hand, just to make sure that that moving the wheels moves the machine on the frame. So if I'm moving the wheel and all I'm doing is moving the wheel and it's moving my frame, I still have good contact on my frame. So let me come around and get these wheels in the back. And then the other thing that I do, and I hope you can see this now, is I go to the encoders. And I go to the encoders and I do the same thing on the encoders. I just lift the encoder up and take this dry cloth wipe the encoders off, because the encoders are what keeps my regulation working. So I cleaned that one encoder, and I'm going to get to the back encoder now. Oh, there's a lot of lint on this back encoder. The other thing I do when I clean those encoders is I go ahead and lift them up and set them back down to make sure that there actually some tightness in the encoder. Because it shouldn't be too terribly tight, but it should be tight enough that it gives me some, gives a little bit of resistance when it hits that wheel. So the other thing to do is, after I've cleaned, get my elastic out of the way, is go ahead and move the machine and make sure that the encoder appears to be clean all the way through, and that in moving the track, the encoder moves steadily. One of the things that I'm seeing is that there's some debris on this rear encoder. So I'm going to take this smaller of the angled brushes. Again, there's never been any oil or anything on this brush. So I'm going to take that smaller wheel that I see some debris on there's a groove in the encoder wheel. So I'm just going to brush that groove out. And since I saw some debris on the back, I'm going to do that same process on my front encoder. I just want to make sure that there's no debris. Now, I'm pretty sure you couldn't see me jumping all over it, but that's me and how I clean my frame. And I'll do another video later on about cleaning machine, and when I do, I'm going to clean 2 or 3 machines, so you'll see the whole process of cleaning machine and what I go through. But that's just cleaning the frame and getting everything ready for my next project to be loaded on my Cutie. So I hope this resonates with you, and I hope it helps you in your quilting experience. You have a great day and quilt on. Hope to see you again here on Quilting on a Thread. Bye-bye.